when you had said that the Democrats love giving freedom, that's the party of freedom. Yes, that's the party that gives freedom to criminals, not law-abiding citizens. They give freedom to criminals. Democrats love crime and support criminals.
The blue states favor a liberal left big government approach, high taxes, heavy regulations, high minimum wages, and mandatory union membership. Think New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Illinois.
In the city of Chicago that I grew up in, it's become for so many people hell on earth.
A hellhole.
Hell on earth. Just in last year, it was the deadliest year in a quarter of a century.
The deadliest year in 25 years.
Correct. We saw almost 800 homicides. We saw almost 3,600 shootings. Crime running rampant. And you know what new information has just come to light about all the crime that took place last year? Out of all of these events, thousands of them that took place in the city of Chicago, thousands of crimes, only 12% of those crimes have led to arrest.
Oh, dear Lord in heaven. What
12%.
is going on?
Historic low numbers.
Oh, wait, now, let me clarify. You said only 12% have led to arrests or convictions.
Arrest.
So they haven't even arrested anybody.
Correct. 12% have led to arrest.
88% of crime victims never have the case solved.
They don't get justice.
What is going on?
If this doesn't convince you to get a gun for protection, I don't know what will.
Starting in January, a new law will go into effect in Illinois called the Safety Act. Part of it eliminates cash bail for most offenses. Today, the Winnebago County State's Attorney says around 400 inmates at the county jail will be released. Under the new law, people arrested for many criminal cases, including battery, robbery, and vehicular homicide, will be released, no matter the severity of the crime. Unless there is evidence, they're a flight risk.
Well, they had a vote on it about if they want to repeal that law, seeing if it's a good idea or a bad idea. Look at all these Republicans have voted to repeal that law. They know it's a bad idea to release all criminals from jail, letting all jails in the country be empty. But look at all these Democrats that voted not to repeal it. They voted to keep it. Well, 31 of them didn't.
This was written March 16th, 2020, 3 years ago. It's recent. I don't believe it's an accident that she didn't turn it over. She knew damn well this is a radical document. And look, the notion that she did not understand what it meant. I'm holding it in my hand. Let me read you. I'm just going to read you from the very beginning, because let's see if it's subtle. Let's see if they hide the ball what it talks about. Here are the opening words of the letter. The undersigned organizations and individuals call on Governor Lamont to act immediately to protect the lives of the incarcerated people in our state. 3 urgent steps are needed. 1, the immediate release of as many people in custody as possible. 2, a moratorium on new admissions into jails and prisons. And 3, evidence-based, humane, and rights-affirming measures to protect the health and well-being of the individuals who will stay behind walls. That's the opening paragraph. It ain't subtle. To my friend from Connecticut, if she's not bright enough to figure out this letter is saying, let the criminals go, when it says in the opening paragraph, we demand right now you let the criminals go, then she needs to go back to remedial English in 5th grade and not become a federal judge. By the way, the letter goes on and on and on. You go into the body of the letter. We call on Governor Lamont, the state of Connecticut, to 1, immediately release to the maximum extent possible people incarcerated pre-trial and post-conviction. On pre-trial release, here's what it says. Governor Lamont should use his emergency powers to protect incarcerated people, their communities, and correctional staff by releasing all ALL, all people who are incarcerated and been convicted of a crime. I want you to stop and understand what those words mean. All people means everyone. It means every murderer. If you have a serial killer who has raped and murdered a dozen women on the highways of Connecticut and he's arrested, what did this woman call for? Let him go. If it's pre-conviction, let the serial killer go. If you have an aggravated rapist, if you have a child molester, there's no conditionality about, well, only nonviolent. No, it doesn't say nonviolent. It says all. Let every single criminal go pre-conviction. Look, I understand this is Washington, D.C., and there's politics here.
I bet you agree with the Democrats, don't you? I bet you agree with the Democrats, don't you? Talk about they making America safe and stuff. You agree with them about taking all the criminals out of jail will make America safe? Yeah, I bet you agree with them.
Think New York.
In New York last year, 10 career criminals racked up 500 arrests. If you get arrested 50 times, you're still not in jail. That is a whole bowl of wrong. And we talked about elected officials before. Who's the Attorney General of New York State? Letitia James. What's her laser focus right now? Putting Donald Trump out of business in New York through a ridiculous civil suit. Who is Manhattan's DA? Alvin Bragg, right? And what's he doing? Also pursuing charges against Donald Trump in a case that everybody thinks is an absolute joke. So until you change leadership when it comes to the mayor's office, governor's office, and these attorney generals, to your point, that bullet train's going to keep going by, Ken.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well,
when we talk about 7 major arrests, as the mayor alluded to, 21-year high. When we look at who we're arresting, we are arresting individuals that have been arrested sometimes 100 times since 2020. 100 times. I'd like to talk about another individual. This will be recidivist number 1. 101 career arrests, 15 convictions, 3 for felonies, 2 of those violent, 10 misdemeanor convictions, 88 arrests since January 1st of 2020. We all know what January 1st of 2020 was.
Crime victims say they felt victimized all over again when Mayor LaToya Cantrell showed up in court to support a juvenile perpetrator during sentencing.
As Natasha Robin reports, the victims say they're angry and they want an explanation.
I was in shock. She wasn't there for us. She was there for the assaultant and his mother, and she was supporting the crime.
You know, your own mayor, isn't supporting you.
Crime victims in disbelief when they say Mayor LaToya Cantrell showed up in court to support the juvenile who carjacked them.
Of course she was supporting the crime. She's a Democrat. Democrats love crime and support criminals.
And of course, California.
You can literally walk into a retail store every single day of the year and steal $949 worth of merchandise, and you will never do a minute in jail.
Is it a day or
no,
is it
no.
per time?
It's
so you could
per
actually
incident. You can go back.
So you can steal $949 and walk out of that store and go back in and do it again.
Yes. No compounding consequence. The voters, I believed, were duped because the summary and title said it was the Safe Neighborhoods and Safe Schools Act. So that's all a person looks at. If you get that sample ballot and you see this Proposition 47, the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, I'm voting for that. Under California law, ironically, rape of the unconscious is not a violent crime. Assault on a peace officer with anything other than a fully automatic weapon is not a violent crime.
Wow.
Domestic violence, with the word violence right in the crime title, is not a violent crime. So we really truly need some truth and justice in the state of California.
Now, do you have any hopes for the future of California?
I do. The information that's been shared as a result of this effort to fix Proposition 47, I think, has gone a long way to open the eyes and the ears and the minds of California voters, and I hope it stays. The mayors of these blue cities have come out in support of the initiative to fix Proposition 47. So it's not a right-wing initiative by any stretch of the imagination.
Hundreds of California small business owners rallied to protest a First, they hire private security to stop crime. The bill mandates a workplace violence prevention plan. Now, under the bill, only security is allowed to confront shoplifters. Otherwise, OSHA can fine retailers $18,000 per incident. Businesses are also required to log every threat of violence and provide trauma counseling if something happens. Protects the shoplifters.
It protects the what?
Protects the shoplifters.
Yeah, you devil Democrats would want to protect the shoplifters.
Those against the bill say it seeks to put the burden on business owners.
It's not enough that we decriminalize property crime, but now he's saying you can't stop criminals from stealing, taking your property.
3 years ago, 24-year-old Rakeem Ingram was shot to death here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Some days it's hard. It can be real, real hard.
His mother, Erica Ingram, is still reeling.
He was nice. You know, everybody loved him.
Now, his unsolved murder has sparked a surprising shift for this lifelong Democrat. For the first time, she'll vote Republican. She believes Democrats are not taking spikes in crime here and across the country seriously enough.
They weak. They don't fight hard enough. As to where the Republicans get up there and they pulling out all stops.
Across town, Brenda Bickerstaff has been pushing for more police accountability since her brother Craig was killed in a police shooting in 2002. She worries the rhetoric of Democrats being tough on crime after years of being focused on police accountability will lead to more violence.
When I hear tough on crime, I'm like, okay, they're going to start violating people's Fourth Amendment rights. People are going to get pulled over unlawfully for no reason. Unfortunately, it's going to affect the black and brown people.
It's part of a nationwide trend these midterms. Crime is taking center stage. Like many Democrat cities, Cleveland has seen a dramatic rise in its murder rate.
But the Democrats want to take all law-abiding citizens' guns away and tell them what to do while they release all criminals out of jail. Bet that's good to you, huh? Taking all law-abiding citizens' guns away while they release all the criminals from jail. And you wonder why I call them the devil party.
So you mean to tell me that the God-hating, baby-killing left wants to let people out of jail, let people loot, let people riot, let people burn down buildings, and they want to take my gun? What the?
The fact is, Democrats don't want Americans to own guns. In August 2019, a television interviewer asked then-candidate Joe Biden the following question. So to gun owners out there who say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns. Biden's response? Bingo.
Gun owners out there who say, well, a Biden administration means they're going to come for my guns.
Bingo. Whether you own a gun, because we're about to really take away all your rights and you're not going to be able to defend yourself.
There's only one thing that has been proven to stop a bad guy with a gun, and that's a good guy with a gun. Sadly, this is something I learned from experience on a fateful Sunday morning. Yeah, that's me. Gun control and gun-free zones don't stop criminals. They create helpless victims with no means to defend themselves from evil. Criminals have never followed the law, and I promise you they don't intend to start now. When seconds count and police could be minutes or even an hour away, it's vital that law-abiding citizens are empowered to protect our schools, churches, and local communities. The wolves are always right outside the door. There is no sign or law that will stop them, but a bullet will. My name is Jack Wilson, and I am a proud lifetime member of the National Rifle Association.
Joe Biden, he's mad that Jack Wilson has saved over 200 lives. He feels sorry for the criminal.
Put a terrorist down in the matter of seconds with this gun, and it's not even a weapon of war, or whatever that means. You know what Joe told me? That I shouldn't have been armed in that church.
So with the tragedy that just happened in Texas, my question is,
How do you justify the Democratic view on gun control when the shooter was stopped by a man who was legally licensed to carry a gun?
Well, first of all, you shouldn't be carrying.
You see, Biden saying the good guy who stopped the bad guy legally and saved over 200 lives shouldn't have been carrying. But he ain't saying the bad guy who murdered 2 other people shouldn't have been carrying. He's saying the good guy who saved lives and stopped the bad guy shouldn't have been carrying. Because Democrats love crime and support criminals. I'm not with that devil party.
All you're going to accomplish is taking guns away from the good people, and the bad people are still going to
No, that's not true. The statistics say that if you have a gun at home, you are 22 times as likely to shoot a family member or a friend as to somebody breaking in. Don't try to go for a gun. You've got somebody pointing a gun at you. You think you're going to be able to outshoot them? That's one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
This man has armed security everywhere he goes, but he's telling you and I that having a gun to fight off a criminal is stupid. He not only doesn't believe in firearm ownership, he doesn't believe in self-defense. He does for himself, but for you and I, the little peon citizens, oh, no. You don't get self-defense because that's stupid. Why would you want to stop someone from killing you? Keep in mind, he didn't refute the fact that criminals would still have guns. He just said, you're more likely to shoot someone with your gun. I told you, he thinks everyone with him and his elite friends are stupid and need to be saved from themselves. Yet he walks around with personal armed security.
Mr. Speaker, in 2019, as a private citizen, a mom, a small business owner, I was ticked off that a politician running for president of the United States wanted to strip away our enumerated constitutional rights. So with my Glock on my hip, I drove 3 hours to tell Robert Francis O'Rourke, also known as Beto, hell no, you're not taking our guns. That message resonated with millions of Americans. But sadly, the Democrat Party, isolated in their basements and gated mansions, still haven't gotten the message. Those on the left who'd steamroll the rights of law-abiding citizens are still at it. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle seem to be totally oblivious to the message Americans sent in 2020. Nearly 8.5 million Americans purchased a firearm for the very first time in 2020. With the left defunding the police, Antifa rioting, looting, burning down businesses, people made the reasonable and rational decision to take self-protection seriously and arm themselves. And the Democrat response? More regulations, more bureaucracy, more control, less freedom. Mr. Speaker, I'll say it again, and I'll say it nice and loud so everyone can hear me. Those on the left are still tucked away safely in their gated mansions with their armed security, ignoring everyday Americans. For me, this is a hell no. It's a hell no to government treading on our rights. It's a hell no to the regulations of our Second Amendment. It's a hell no to government trampling on our freedoms. All of these new gun laws will do is leave law-abiding citizens defenseless, while criminals, wait for it, break the law. So I have a few questions for my colleagues on the left. I want to know, why do you trust the American people so little? Why do you look down on them as lesser than you? How detached are you to believe that someone else's rights should be subject to bureaucratic permission, to your permission? Why is it okay to provide armed security for yourself, but take away the rights of Americans to do so themselves? Why do you feel the need to keep a registry of gun owners, Do you not trust the American people? Are you afraid of your neighbors? Do you despise their rights? How much power over the American people will it take to satisfy these radicals on the left? Our rights don't come from politicians. They come from God Almighty. Stop pretending to be God, do your job, and protect the rights of the American people. And with that, I yield, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you.
When tragedy hits, Americans rebuild. When violence strikes, we defend ourselves. But there's some people living among us who take advantage of the bad times. We're living in a time when left-wing politicians seem to be encouraging violence. Some Democrat mayors and governors are telling police to stand down and allowing violent rioters to burn down their own cities so these elected officials can gain political leverage. They don't like the system we live in because it's an honest system. Our system of law and order holds people accountable for their actions. So it's no surprise they would want to break it down. Not only are they trying to break down our system of law and order, they also want to disarm law-abiding citizens, which is why some politicians and their anti-gun lobbying groups like Moms Demand Action in Everytown are using the violence and gun-related deaths as justification for more gun restrictions. They cause the problem, they refuse to stop the violence, and they allow their anarchists free rein so they can rack up more deaths to push for more gun restrictions on law-abiding Americans. Because the bad guys pay no attention to gun laws, the city of Chicago continues to break its own record in the number of gun-related deaths. Not by flag-waving, God-fearing Republicans, by left-wing terrorists and anarchists. Bloomberg-funded anti-gun research groups are in the process of adding those numbers to studies that will be regurgitated by left-wing media outlets, verified by so-called fact-checkers, spread across the first few pages of internet searches, and used as justification to push for more gun restrictions on you, the law-abiding American citizen. When lawful gun owners get arrested for defending themselves and their property from violent rioters, you know the prosecutors are corrupt and interested only in defending their own. Just like the left creates the racial divide so they can claim to be the justice warriors, they perpetuate violence, destruction, anarchy, and bloodshed so they can claim to be the party of peace. Because of the unnecessary violence in our country, gun purchases have doubled from this time last year. NICS background checks show us that 40% of those gun purchasers are first-timers. How many of those first-timers do you think will start supporting the Second Amendment and voting Republican? There's a mass exodus out of blue states and violent blue cities because regardless of political affiliation, people want to be safe, and they understand which party is putting them in danger.
Tonight, word that Chicago police may soon need permission from supervisors before chasing a suspect on foot.
Rewriting police policy on all foot chases is a hot topic at City Hall. Alderman Brian Hopkins says the mayor's office told him officers could soon be required before undertaking a foot chase to do what they're now required before a vehicle chase: get permission from higher ups.
Of course, that raises obvious problems. In the time that it would take to do that, the person you're supposed to be chasing is actually long gone. And
Spokane Police Chief Craig Meidel explained under the new laws, they won't be able to chase suspects who are running or driving away. He says this will make it difficult to find suspects and hold them accountable.
We are not allowed by law to use force unless we have probable cause. And if they aren't able to develop that probable cause within the first couple of minutes, that person is going to be long gone.
Now, this is from King 5 News. They're quoting the police chief there, Stacey Denham. They say Centralia police chief frustrated that officers can't chase suspects. It says the state law prohibits law enforcement from getting involved in high-speed pursuits with anyone not suspected of drunk driving, violent, or sexual crimes. They quote the chief saying, I think most officers probably in the state are very frustrated with this particular law. Said he blames an increase on car thefts and catalytic converter thefts on thieves, knowing that law enforcement will not chase them.
Exactly. Under the current law, you can literally just walk away from an officer, get into your car, and drive off. You don't even have to speed. And police officers, for the most part, are not allowed to pursue you. Now, this is a result of the police reimagining bills that the Democrats had pursued a couple years ago. And basically, Democrats are arguing that every single police chase is dangerous. which of course is wrong. They're not cops. They have no clue what they're talking about. And what it effectively has done is tell the criminals, hey, you do not ever have to fear any kind of chase.
As of this date, there are to be no more foot chases.
And that's what I said, that's what I meant, and that's what I said what I meant, and I meant what I said.
Because the left wants something to happen, bad, period. But it's about the Second Amendment.
This is their thought leader, and that was a pretty amazing clip and a hypocritical one at that.
She is certainly giving AOC a run for her money when it comes to that. Oh boy, the Democratic Party is in shambles. But I'll also say this. Let's think about this for a minute. The Democrats don't want you to have your Second Amendment rights. They don't want you to be able to own a firearm, or they want to tell you how many you can own. They want to tell you how much ammo you can have. So they don't want you to be able to protect and defend yourself, but then they also want to defund your police departments. But then they feel that they are entitled to have protection because they are just simply more important than the rest of us. But you notice, Cori Bush and others, when they have this private security, this private detail, some of it taxpayer funded, you notice that they're not calling social workers or mental health experts alongside them to protect and defend their lives that are apparently more important than ours. They're having police officers and private trained security who are armed, by the way. That's who they want protecting and defending them, but they want to leave your streets, your curbs, your country lawless and unprotected. It just goes to show the priorities of Democrats are always Democrats.
It's my God-given right to have it.
Your God-given right.
My God-given right, my constitutional right to have it, okay? And nobody, no tyrannical government is going to come and take it away from me. It's not going to happen.
Gun owners here are resisting new measures proposed by Democrats, who for the first time in decades control the General Assembly, setting up a battle over a long, proud history here of liberal gun laws, including owning assault rifles. The Virginia government is trying to take these people's weapons away, and that's what they get for voting Democrat.
Don't be a Democrat.
No wonder why people don't want to live in those left-wing states. And I still can't believe you thought it was the party of freedom.